We are going to do a tarot reading, probably the first ever tarot reading with a text to video AI generated tarot deck that I have previously made over the last few months using OpenAI Sora. And I thought it would make sense to do a tarot reading about Sora itself. And I could also demo all the cards for you. So the question I have for tarot is, how will Sora affect my creative work? I actually broke down the question first just to figure out like which archetype represents my relationship with Sora. I wanted to know what to watch out for with working with Sora. I wanted to know what is the shape or form that my output or projects take place as I use Sora. And then I am deeply curious about the wider effects of Sora as a tool once it is more out there, and also how will other people play with it, or what will, even seeing these videos lead to. So, and this is just a major arcana deck, so it's 22 cards. Each one contains a video. So I'll pick one for my relationship with Sora. Oh, the Hermit. That's funny. Yeah, I have been quietly playing with Sora and nobody has known. The Hermit's very much about being in a cave and having a mission, but you're not necessarily sharing it. You're sort of doing deep reflection and research. I did feel also in the act of me using Sora, like I'd go down rabbit holes a lot and like be an investigator. Also, what's super cool about Sora is it, in some ways, because you can kind of make video based on dreams, in many ways, I think that it's most interesting also to the person using it. Like you can kind of get a reflection of different ideas floating on your mind. Of course, it's going to look different, but it feels like a conversation with your like internal imagination. And that's how I felt working with Sora also, because I'm not using it in any collaborative way, nor am I necessarily being inspired by other prompts. I am just kind of alone with my thoughts in Sora. So the Hermit's very fitting. I made many variations of the Hermit. I wanted the tarot deck to have kind of like a homemade feeling. Like it does sort of have like a 1960s quality with the coloring. I did some additional color grading on it. I also added the cricket sound effect. Every card comes with a sound effect. And I thought this was cool, like how unreal the flame was. I also wanted the person's face to be hidden. There was a lot of things that, stuck with my original prompt. But every card took me many tries. It wasn't like I went with the first try ever. And not necessarily because the other tries are wrong. It was more just like, I just was gravitated towards this one. Like this one drew my attention. I also wrote a guidebook for the Sora Tarot deck. So this is the Hermit. The Hermit leads themselves with a quiet confidence. Even if the territory is unfamiliar and they're navigating alone, they have a natural sense of direction and purpose. I actually, when playing with Sora, I didn't want hand-holding at all. And I think that's what's kind of fun about being new to using AI tools is you have none of the like knowledge and learning and best practices or like common language and even like memes that would influence what's on your mind. So this is pure exploration by myself in many ways. So next is what to watch out for. Oh, I love this card. The Chariot. Okay, I guess this is interesting. I mean, I'm one of the first people to use this technology, which is actually wild when I think about that. And there's like a great responsibility. I think it's that people will be seeing the sort of things I make. Also, wait, I just want to pause during my reading and show you how cool this card is. So I wanted to, traditional iconography in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck has this like black and white sphinx on either side of the chariot. And so I sort of described these cat-like creatures, and I got 2 sets of them, which is I've never seen in one of the tarot cards before. Also, this person's outfit is just so cool, and it has this little floating sun and like the gold chariot. I couldn't get the chariot moving in a lot of these, like it was stationary, even though they're kind of bouncing around, it's not moving. But I just think the surrealism of this particular world is so cool. Like once I landed on this card, I wanted to like make more in that universe where there's like ornate gold objects and these cat-like creatures. But anyway, the chariot is about leadership and momentum and sort of a triumphant entrance. And in many ways, it's launching something. And there's going to be eyeballs on the sorts of things that I make with Sora, because there aren't, thousands of examples of it that have been publicly released. And I think something to watch out for is there's kind of great responsibility in the sort of stuff I share, but it's very infinite, but there's so much power in shaping the narrative of like what you can do with it. I would also say this, and this is more meta. I think that because these images have a lot of weight, it's very cool for showing possibility space, but there's also a great level of care and consideration you have to make about like, what imaginary worlds do I want people to have in the back of their mind? So there's sort of a greater responsibility of like, what is the kind of content that I want to make that would like steer itself into people's brains? Is it cool fantasy cats? There's just so many possibilities of kinds of worlds that you could create. And so it's like, yeah, take great care in the content. Okay, what shape are my projects? Yeah, I think that's also something to know. Like, as I use Sora, I mean, I made this tarot deck, but I've also really just been enjoying playing around. I made a lot of like surrealist factory videos. I've made just a lot of textures and stuff. But what shape are my projects and output? This is like the stuff I put out there. Oh, that's funny. Of course, I would get the devil. The devil is also tricky to generate this one and not have it feel like totally spooky. Like I wanted a playful vibe for the devil because that is my interpretation of it. It's nice to plan a little mischief with friends. The devil brings out the silly side of you. The devil is a little schemester. And of course, it's just fun to generate like someone doing parkour on Suture Tower or things like that. But then I think the devil asks me in a way to think deeper about what is the like narrative or scheme or story that I want to tell and add another level of playfulness to it. So that it's not simply just like, oh, cool video. Like there's something else going on. Also, I keep looking at the fact that they're sort of like chained to this devil. When I was doing the Sora tarot deck, what you see here, I felt like, oh no, now I'm trapped in a project. I just want to enter different styles. I want to see if it understands camcorder footage. I want to like make inventions. I had to be like, oh no, I just can't be free roaming with my imagine. I'm chained to this project. And I think that's interesting. This is true of a lot of AI tools is once they become part of your workflow, it doesn't have that same sense of playfulness from when you were like truly freeform exploring. But that's kind of a reminder to carve out time for yourself in playing with these tools. Carve out time for yourself to have no objective whatsoever to play for the sake of playing. You have to really force yourself to carve out time to not have it be about outcome because it's easy to think of projects with it and then want to do those projects. And then you don't get to land on the surprising, crazy stuff. Like I did like hydraulic press videos at first. And I think there's magic in not knowing what you want to create at all. And that's what leads you to discover stuff. It's like exploring a museum. But it'll take a lot of work because it's such a powerful tool. It's such a powerful like resource and creative tool that it'll suck you in for your workflow versus just like, this is a wild otherworldly technology that you can just like freely explore. And yet once you realize it's for work, you stop exploring. Anyway, this is the big question I want to know though. What will happen when Sora is kind of like out there for more people, or what effects does that have on the world? Let's see. This is the biggest card. Oh, that's good. I mean, okay, I like that we got the Magician of all the cards. The Magician is, in many ways, beginner's luck. You put on a dazzling show for someone who's new to something. The Magician often seems confident with whatever resources are in front of them, even as beginner. I also view the magicians as someone who could put on a show, but they don't necessarily know fully what they're doing, which is kind of interesting. I mean, a lot of the people using it did not build it, right? But they're also novices to what's possible with it. And they are, and also the artists using it are potentially using it in a very scrappy way and it's not like fully streamlined into this like robust workflow at this moment. But we're still able to put on a dazzling show. Something that I think is cool about this is the effects of this as a tool that's shared more widely is it kind of can turn anyone into the magician. Like we'll all be able to dazzle each other. And what does that mean if we're constantly seeing these dazzling images? If we are watching so many dazzling videos, what are the videos that are most interesting? I never view any creative tool as taking away any human creativity. I view it as expanding human creativity. So I view it as like, oh no, we are just going to change our thresholds for what is interesting and also do weirder, more wild stuff. But there is, the magician puts on a show. Playing around with Sora is awesome to just do in a hermit state, explore on your own. I think once artists get used to sharing their output and realizing people's interactions with it and how they're also affected, they just naturally become a video maker. And then there is always the inherent audience in mind. We will want to share our coolest stuff from this. It'll turn a lot of people into a showman, into a magician, into someone on a stage, into a performer. I think, though, the magician is new, though. They're figuring stuff out. Something I thought really cool about the process of doing video tarot is that, I mean, creating all these results felt like tarot itself, where I could look at, I could make like 8 different videos or whatever, and then I could read into them and sort of see what vibe I wanted it to feel. I mean, every tarot deck does feel different, but I very carefully curated this one to have certain feelings, but also I couldn't control it too much because it's always the case that anything you do in Sora will never match the exact same thing in mind. Like, you learn that it's a collaborator and you learn how it operates and you know how to shape it, but it never really matches what's in your mind. I think what is cool is I got to curate and I got to like select what I wanted the By the Beach card to be, and then kind of like could notice different things in the card. I mean, of course, you have some awkwardness with the magician, like she's moving her hand in a weird way, but I think I wanted to show the novice quality of the magician. I didn't want that one to be as confident. I wanted that one to be like they're learning. But I did want the chariot one to be very confident. This one is a bit more serious, but they're sort of, I wanted them to have a really cool outfit though, so that like they would be admired because there's a triumphant entrance to that one. There's a lot of cool things that I got to do that really felt like, oh, I'm interpreting this image as a tarot card. Anyway, this entire deck is available for you to play with, and I wrote a custom guidebook just for the Sora Tarot deck, so you can play with it on moonlight.world and share your reading with me because I'm very interested in what this yields for you. Enjoy Sora Tarot.